and show her how to scan items that her mom was buying. As she was ringing up her purchases, the child stopped crying and began smiling. The short interaction made a world of difference for Marianne and her mom. This small act of kindness from Fatima meant everything. And for Fatima, she says it's just part of her nature. She wants to see her customers happy, including the littlest ones. Meanwhile, Mom Marianne says she hopes this story will inspire others to be kind and pass it on. Janice Dean, Fox News.
Veterans with Benefits with your hosts, Corinna and Anthony.
Half a day. We are back. Veterans with Benefits. Today is March 18. I feel like sometimes we forget that we have a radio show. Whenever we go over our week schedule, it's like, oh, we have the radio show. So call in to 671-888-TALK. We are on 93.3. You can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, and online. Our sponsors: Ambrose, American Legion, Guam Eco Surfaces, Hephzibah Clinic, 11Z's, which is located right behind the radio, right behind the building, and they offer military and veteran discount, 11%. 11Z's, thank you, 11Z's, and Noko Oi. So some of the events we have coming up, or those that pass, just want to talk about these real quick, because once we get started with our guest speakers, I don't think we'll be able to come back around. So last week we celebrated American Legion's 105th birthday. And then tomorrow, mark your calendars, please. Join us at Pyology tomorrow, Dedero and Timuning, from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Just mention HMI, and 10% of the proceeds will go to HMI for all the things we do. And then don't forget, that started on March 15th, there are no more plastic bags at the commissaries. No more. Anderson will exhaust the paper bags they have, but besides that, please bring your own bags. And then also, veterans, I heard that, veterans transportation service on Guam. So I know some veterans have sent us pictures. There's a bus going around, just like you see in Hawaii. It is true. So all you have to do is call 671-475-5833 to schedule them to pick you up from your house, take you to your VA appointment. You can call them Tuesday to Saturday, 7:30 to 1600. Then HMI, we are hosting a women veteran only event at 11Z's on March 23rd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's going to be fun, ladies. So it's going to be at 11Z's in the mall, second floor, 11 a.m., 2 p.m. You must RSVP because it's limited seating. You were going to say something, Anthony?
Yeah, and part of the reason we're doing this is because it's Women's Month. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it is. And then HMI is holding a benefits boot camp April 8, 9, 10. I know it's a little way out, but I did want to bring it up for anyone that wants to register in Timuning Senior Citizen Center. And then last but not least, Veteran of the Week is Joni LaVille. So Joni LaVille was born and raised on Guam and living in the village of Maina. Joni LaVille stands proudly as an Army veteran whose service began in Panama in 1986. She served alongside her comrades as the casualty officer in the 92nd PSC Fort Clayton into the beginning and ending of taking down dictator Noriega in Operation Just Cause. Following this deployment, she PCS to Fort Ord, California in 1990. The unit was 7th PSC MOS 75 Echo. Although a shortened Army career, she served honorably and continues to draw upon her rich experiences in the military and applies those values in her civilian capacity. Since she was discharged, Joni has transitioned into many different callings in the fields of tourism, hospitality, legal, and education. Beyond the classroom, she remains actively involved in supporting veterans and their families. She currently serves as an officer in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, as well as an officer in many other nonprofit organizations. She holds the years of serving in the military very near and dear to her and stands proudly amongst the ranks of all her fellow veterans. Hua. I'm not Army, I'm Air Force, but I had to say that because that's what she told me. She loves her family and friends and is very passionate when it comes to anything veteran. So help me congratulate Joni LaVille. as Veteran of the Week. And now we can introduce our guests. But Anthony, did you say hi? Sorry, did I just talk?
Well, it is Women's Month, so I'll just take a step back and just enjoy. But I'm Anthony, and I'm here with our show, Veterans with Benefits. And we have lovely ladies in here that will be introducing themselves. And we'll start with...
Go ahead. You guys can introduce yourself.
So I'm Captain Esther Zval, but I'm just Esther, right?
Yes.
So I'm active duty. I am a licensed clinical social worker.
Okay.
I work at Anderson Mental Health Clinic. I have been active duty since 2018. So what? That's about to be 6 years.
Yes.
And then prior to that, I did work at the VA in Maryland.
Oh, wow.
So what else do you need to know about me? If nothing else, I'll give it over to...
Hi, I'm VNH Health. I work in the mental health clinic as well at Anderson Air Force Base.
Okay.
I primarily work with our alcohol and drug program for active duty service members.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for having us. And for a disclaimer, I do want to say that our views are that of our views, VNA and Esther, not that of the Air Force. However, we are advocates for mental health and with our service members, and we'll give you our point of views that we know of. If we don't, we will let you know.
Yes, and that's great, right? I mean, I understand that, with a lot of the work that we do in the military, most of us, will consider it very high stress, high risk. And, when we go through basic training and we go through our schools for our jobs, right, it's quite interesting how the military, and we have a really good military force, by the way, and what they do to us is they prepare us for combat, right? And through a lot of the things that they do, we sometimes, by the time it's time for us to get out, right, a lot of the things that we were doing didn't seem like, they were high risk or high stress until you stop and you take a look and you look back and say, I did that, that's pretty interesting, but that's how we're trained, and that's the type of things we need to do. So, so it's great, right? Now, a lot of the things that we deal with aren't as, maybe the word is sexy, right? When we talk about mental health all the time, right? It's like, we cringe or we try to shy away from it, and it's changing a lot more today, right? Because we now can generally have a conversation. Many years ago, right, nobody talks about this. You're like, if you even felt like you had a bad nightmare, you say nothing about it, right? Because now you're categorized as, hey, something's wrong with this guy, right? So today we have it a bit different. We have a lot of new trainings and things that you folks have done to kind of bring this more to a common, everyday, hey, let's talk about this thing. So maybe we'll start with what do you see and what you do, and how is it where you work?
Okay. I think we see a lot of normal reactions to abnormal situations.
Oh, okay.
Right? So we see a lot of people that have just regular problems, relationship or work problems with their supervisors, right? Everyday things that most people would go through. The only thing that makes it different is that we wear the uniform, right? So there's a lot more consequence, some would think, with seeking services for mental health in the military.
Okay.
So with what we do, so I would say that one thing I will admire about the military is we do have a lot of helping resources, right? And we've evolved. And if you're still thinking of doing things the same we used to, then there's no innovation with that, right? We have evolved. And while you say mental health is not sexy, guess what? Self-care is sexy. So what you do every day by taking care of your coworkers, talking to your coworkers, talking to your family, running, everything, those are all mental health things that you're doing to take care of yourself. While it seems small, they do yield long dividends, right?
Yes.
So I will say, like, what we do, as VNA said, yes, we are dealing with abnormal or a small percentage of the population, right? Like, not a large percentage raise their right hand to say, I will defend the Constitution of America, right?
Yes.
Not many people are selfless like that. So so that's an honor. But with that honor comes specific requirements, right? And to make sure that we are taking care of our service members, veterans included. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, I mean, so like when we talk about how it used to be and how we've evolved, right? And then being able to talk about what's really going on, right? We were talking earlier, and you mentioned something about today. It's about preventative care, even on the mental health side of the house. Can you guys talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I think mental health isn't as stigmatized as it used to be, although it's not completely gone.
Right.
But what that means is that people sometimes wait too long to get seen, right? So they wait until there's a big crisis, or they feel as though their problems can be justified. I went through something tragic, therefore now I'm allowed to come in and get help, right? Yeah. When a lot of the times what we see is that there's been a buildup of things that have been happening before that even occurred that they could have been seen for, right? Those relationship problems I was talking about, stressors at work, everyday life, that there are services for. I think that's a thing a lot of people don't know about, or have a misconception that you have to wait until something big happens. But it's not true.
Absolutely. That is not true. As I said, small things can yield long dividends. So if you're taking care of yourself, and instead of letting things compound, because if you're not taking care of your home life, if you're not taking care of your family, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not taking care of your coworkers, what have it, the many responsibilities we hold on a daily basis, and you let those problems compound, and then you are thrusted into a stressful situation, such as, deployment, or even an unexpected incident occurring, disaster, right? We just all went through Typhoon Mawar, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. If you were not already okay, those unknown circumstances that you're thrusted into will cause increased stress than somebody who the house was good, their foundation was good, and okay, this happened, stressful, but I can handle it, right? So just like with Mawar, if you didn't have gas in your tank, if you didn't have water at home, if you didn't have a generator, flashlights, Mawar was a difficult time for you, okay?
Right.
All right? But if you were prepared, you were able to handle it more. Did you have a difficult time? Absolutely. But it was more manageable, right? Nobody expected the house to be completely flooded or things like that, but you were able to manage it because you had the other things.
Right. And I think part of that too, right, has a lot to do with leadership, right? So, if you're a supervisor and you're in charge of a group of people, right, I think part of that is your job. Now, that's the way it used to be many years ago. Back when I was a supervisor, I had to go to my subordinates' houses and kind of see how they were living, right? And I'd have to kind of understand what was going on in their livelihoods so that they can be better soldiers when they come to work. And by doing that, you kind of understand what they might need or what they might not need, right? And then you learn that, hey, if you're not taking care of home and you're taking care of work alone, there could be trouble that might be brewing, right? So we want them to kind of say, hey, you got to take care of this and that and everything else, right? But we got to find that balance. And I think one of the things I've learned is there are tools that we're given to help us understand and strategize how to create that balance. And a lot of that comes from our mental health providers. And by them providing that to us, it helps us to understand and see what's going on. So tell me about some of these tools that might be available.
But first, let me say hi to the people online. Hi, Doc. Doc is watching from Nigeria, motherland Africa.
Oh.
He's in Nigeria.
Yes, welcome.
Esther's
Thanks for watching.
And then
I was born in Nigeria.
oh yes, Doc, you have to meet her when he
Yes.
gets back. We can introduce you to Doc.
Yeah. And
And
Chi-Chi.
then
And Miss
oh
Chi-Chi.
yes, and Miss Chi-Chi.
Yeah.
And then hello to John Munya. Congratulations on making captain in the Guam Fire Department, John
Hey.
Munya.
Congratulations.
Bill Salisbury, hello. Bill Salisbury is one of the founders of the organization that we're with, HMI.
hello.
And then hello, Steve. I always say his name wrong. Amaguen. Amaguen. Hi, Steve. Sorry, I butchered your name. Sorry. Anthony set me straight.
Thank you,
And so go ahead. The tools. You guys are about
what
to talk
tools
about
do you guys know of that we generally would provide to folks that might be in, I don't know, when they come see you and they say, oh, I have this problem. Do you have any tools that you can tell us that we can use or that you kind of tell them, hey, try this approach instead, for example?
Yes. So it depends on what the problem they're coming in for, right,
Okay.
is what we do. So if somebody were to walk into our clinic, we would assess what the problem is, right? Is it something that can be taken care of with short-term care, right, a lower level of care? Then we would refer them to the appropriate agency. So that could be the MFLAC, right, which some are embedded into squadrons, bigger locations, as well as the chaplain, right? They do counseling, even if it's not religious-based, and it's 100% confidential for those who have concerns about, keeping their record clean, or concerns about deployability. That is a great resource that we would use. As well as military one source if they want a telehealth provider. It's non-medical counseling, so none of that goes into your record as well, but it is documented. You get to stay with the same provider.
So when we met you guys before the show, there are some people that could be listening that are still in the military, because a bunch of us are already retired or separated veterans, right? So then we fall in a different mental health category, right? But for those that are still in, I know we talked about, I know you guys talked about it earlier about, stigmatism about getting mental health care. So what would you have to say for those that are still in, that are worried about, like what you said, a clean record?
So, so for those regarding a clean record, so like we said, there are the chaplains, MFLAC, military one source does not document into your medical records. They do not. If it's for the stressful lower level situations that do not want a diagnosis. So that is not in your medical records, and that cannot be accessed, right? So those are pretty much the three main platforms that aren't documentable. I will say, to answer your question, Anthony, we also do part of mental health as well as alcohol and drug abuse prevention is we do outreaches, right? And we do education classes. Just like you went to school before you became supervisors or non-commissioned officers or even commissioned officers, you have classes that you have to take, right? So in those classes, like our newcomers and our NCO, I'm speaking on Air Force terms, non-commissioned officer trainings. We even at basic training and even officer training, we do things like stress management, teaching people the importance of taking care of yourself, your basic needs, because everything's like a triangle, right? Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So things compound. So if you're not taking care of the lower level, your basic needs, like your health, your physical health, right? Your sleep, like going to bed at a routine hour, social support, talking to your family, talking to your friends, taking your medications, right, for blood pressure or being seen for blood pressure. All those things compound later. You may not see the effects now, but they do compound, right? So we teach those things at these classes. And you want to know what, Anthony? When I go to these classes, I even teach mindfulness, right? Being aware, deep breathing. And I always love it when I say, okay, we're all going to close our eyes and take a moment. This is what we see. This is what I see every time. Looking around. I said, close your eyes. Looking around. Yeah. And then I'll give pamphlets. Oh, thanks. Trash.
Where were they when we were in?
I did it. Like it's not like it's only going to utilize. It's a good tool if you utilize it, but if you put it in your pocket, it goes nowhere.
And this goes back to trying to make it sexy, right? And it is, right? When you talk about it right now, right? I'm hearing you, and even Karina said, "Where were these guys at?" Right? Because let me share with you, right? That's what we need a lot of times. Because here's the deal, right? In the service, back in when I was in, they tell you this is what you do and that's it.
When
right?
were you in, Anthony? What year?
Well, I can't tell you.
Tell us, share it.
I was born in 1990, so that means I'm a young buck. But at the end of the day, right? When you look at trying to understand this, right? Today is a lot better, right? And we tell that even to our veterans, right? Today's the best time to be a veteran than ever before, because as you said, we're evolving, right? There's things that are out there. We have a lot of social media. I mean, we talked about TikTok, right? And if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. We gotta do that, because there's a lot that happens, especially when it deals with like veterans with suicide, right? And one is one too many, right? And that's what we talk about. But if we actually have the resources, it's one thing to have it, but are we getting the people to the resources, right? And I think they're future veterans when they're with you. So if you don't take care of them, they end up coming out into the community, and then HMI has a bigger need to take care of them because it wasn't sexy to them when they were in. And we really want that to be what it is, because we want them, having a career in the military and being able to experience things after that, right? And coming out of, who knows, deployments or even just active duty in and of itself, 20 years, that's enough. I mean, you think, man, that was a tough life. And then now you want to figure out, how do you take care of whatever you have left, depending on how tough it was on you when you got out. So just that in and of itself is tough. So your job's great.
I'm just laughing because online, Charlie Hermosa said your red shirt is sexy, Anthony.
Sexy, yes, it is, Anthony.
Keep saying the word sexy.
Thanks, Charlie.
And then hello to, we have, hi, Hannah. Hannah's listening. Hi, Amy. They're listening to us online.
Hi.
So let me just, for those that are just hopping online, we have two wonderful ladies, mental health specialists with the Anderson Air Force Base Clinic. So they're not representing them, and they're on official capacity.
Yes, our views are not representative of that of the
Air
Force.
But they are sharing what they do, what's available, and kind of trying to explain, what the stigma is with getting mental health care.
So I think what Anthony was saying about, there being a life outside of the military.
Yes.
I think people forget that until they get to the point where their contract is ending or they're retiring.
Right.
And they're figuring out they have a bit of a crisis, for lack of better words. And they go, how do I live my life now without something that I've known for so long, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they want to start taking care of themselves. They want to spend more time with family. They want to take care of their health, get everything documented, go to the VA. But if they've never done it before, it's really, really hard to start.
And then I think there's a transitioning portion there, right? And, we talk about this, I guess it's an older term, right? It's being institutionalized, right? So being institutionalized in active duty, 20 years of doing the same thing every day in, day out, preaching the mantra of you got to do this, we have to be mission ready. And then all of a sudden, it's time to get out, and then we're like, what am I going to do? What's out there, right? And if we're not preparing them for that, it's going to be really tough for them. And that's when we end up having, the need to take care of a lot of these veterans, and what they become ours, no longer yours on the active duty side.
Absolutely. And
oh, sorry, we're gonna head to a break, ladies. But save it for the break.
Fun talk.
We'll be right back, and we'll be right back in a few minutes.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Okay, what's Instant Issue?
You open an account, you receive your new debit card right then as an instant issue.
And if I have to replace my card for whatever reason?
Yep, you order, it's ready. No waiting for the mail. And you can track your usage on your online banking in real time.
Wait, I can see my purchase or ATM activity when they happen?
Yep, instantly.
I like it. Where do I sign up?
Bank Pacific. Where those put branches, we place routes instantly.
Member FDIC.
Fox on Faith with Lauren Green.
Christian nationalism has become a negative term these days, but Pastor Jack Hibbs defends it.
A Christian nationalist is a Christian who happens to live in a nation and that they seek the welfare. Jeremiah 29 verse 7 says that you should seek the welfare of the city in which I have planted you for the betterment of all.
Hibbs is the senior and founding pastor of Calvary Chapel in Chino Hills, California. His new book, Days of Deception, pokes holes at what the culture says about faith compared to what the Bible says. He's been criticized as being a Christian nationalist, most recently by a group of Democrats in Congress who thought he was ill-qualified to render a blessing before lawmakers. But Hibbs sees the moniker as something positive.
It makes me be a believer who wants the streets clean and all lives honored.
To hear more, go to Lighthouse Faith Podcast at foxnews.com. For Fox on Faith, Lauren Green, Fox News.
And we're back. Veterans with Benefits, 6 p.m. Mondays. You can call in at 671-888-TALK. We're on 93.3, YouTube, Facebook, and online. So let me say hello to those online. So Charlie, before we could get to your comment, you did your own LOL. That's funny. Hello to Amy Jackson, Henry, which says, what vet group here in Guam contra mental health? That is GY671. So you can reach out to them, Amy or Hannah or John. If you guys are on, can you guys post your number in the comments? GY671. Steve says ACE, Ask, Care, and Escort. The Army ACE, Suicide Intervention ACE program, is a 3-hour training and provides soldiers with the awareness, knowledge, and skills necessary to intervene with those at risk for suicide. ACE stands for Ask, Care, and Escorts. And then hello to Ike. Ike says, hello, family.
All right.
And then Janice says, hi, ladies. Jonathan Savares, half a day, Korean Anthony.
Oh, hello.
And then Charlie Hermosa says, we need to continue to explore psychedelic drug therapy. I think you were talking about the Anthony.
Hold on, Charlie.
Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Auntie Bennett. She says, half a day vets.
Awesome.
Okay, so you're about to share something. Sorry, before we went to break.
Sure. So actually, don't remember everything. What were we talking about? A bit lost, but I think we were talking about more of making things accessible to our active duty before they become veterans, because once they are veterans, we've lost the ability to integrate. I will say that is a compounding. We do try to do our best with that, right? There is, you mentioned TikTok. Let's use Facebook or Instagram before TikTok, but I'm just saying, instead of the flashy thing. But we're also being innovative, right? Like we are starting with, like now that we all fall under the Department of Health agency, right? Like DHA. Mm-hmm. There is something called telehealth therapy, right? Via Brave. And that is called Behavioral Health Resources and Virtual Experience. So we're trying to move away from, the Army does this, Air Force does this. While there are still nuances within the sister services, now that all medical has fallen under DHA, the Brave platform is there on most bases, right? And that is a readiness tool, meaning that some of the low impact stuff that VNA mentioned, like stress, that can be done on the Brave platform, which is, you talk to a contracted licensed provider and talk about your stress and things like that. As long as there's no safety concerns, yeah, that does. But that is also documented. I cannot say that's not a documented thing. That is documented, though. But pretty skeletal, not like detailed.
All right. Now, your experience with virtual, I know the VA is moving to a lot of virtual platforms for our veterans. And if you know some of us older veterans like myself, I'm 79 years old. And
he always is young.
79 years young.
But some of our veterans, right, have no access, or if they do, they're like not engaged in it, right? Because it's not something that they're familiar with. I mean, someone like myself, even I sometimes look at these things. I say, how do you get on here? Why is this way? Can you check on this? Or, I don't. And one of the reasons I don't like to go on there is there's a lot of ways for people to access your information when you're on all these social platforms, right? And I think even the federal government is not a big fan of TikTok at the moment, right? So that's kind of something that, you know, when you look at that, right? I mean, even me, right? Rather than even just gamble with anything, I just say, never mind. But our veterans are not as, and myself included, if somebody told me, oh, let's go on virtual and talk to somebody, right? I'll be like, I don't know that I like that. I want to press the flesh. I want to see this person. I want to say hello, and I want a real person talking to me, because that way I get to understand and see them and let them tell me, hey, this is what's going on. And it just is more human for me, I think.
I do hear what you're saying, that it be more relatable, but I beg to differ, Anthony, because even now on this radio station that you are involved in at 79 years young, people can't see you, but they can feel your humor. That is honestly the same thing, right? And then part of it is the teaching, right? We can teach, right?
Yes, okay.
Because also, one thing I will say is that we have some people that will say, oh, I want it this way. Okay, but in many parts of your life, you've also innovated, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like, in your days, Anthony,
Yes.
We didn't have radio shows that talked about mental health, but here you are heading it up, right?
Yes.
So it's the same things that I would say that, hey, step out of your comfort zone, right? Because if your mental health matters,
right,
just like if you have a broken leg, right, if it's amputated, you're not just going to go about your merry way with it bleeding, right? So if it's an infection, treat it at the base level. So I would say if you're not comfortable with your cell phone or the computer, then go to your local VA or MTF for active duty and get the ability to learn how to do that, right?
Right.
But again, I was providing the telehealth is because different strokes for different folks. Just like humans are not one size fits all, in person does not fit all to everybody, especially people worried about stigma, right?
Yes.
Some people like I've had people come to my office and they're like looking down.
Yeah.
I see them in the waiting room. They're looking around, like wear a hat all the way down, or things like that.
Is my hat?
Are you hiding from us, Anthony? But I'm saying different strokes for different folks. So that's an option instead of the one option of coming to the clinic that we always had.
And that's a good thing, because you're taking care of that on the active duty side, right? So as they transition out, they're familiar with it, right? So like a lot of the folks that are already veterans, right? What we're learning from the good folks up at the CBOC, right, is that's where they're moving towards is technology. And if we can help our veterans like myself want to say, hey, look, guys, we got to get on this thing. And I learned from, I want to say it's Dr. Castro over at the CBOC site for mental health. She kind of mentioned that there's this new thing that they're doing where they kind of just let them jump on and just take a look, say hello, play with it a little, right? And it's not really... what do you call it? It's not the treatment side yet. It's just, here's what we have, right? And then we get them used to it. And then if they want to change, they always can, right? But at the end of the day, right, we got to help them to try it, right? Because if they don't try it, they'll never know, right? And if it's the only option, then maybe we grasp onto it a little bit more, right?
Absolutely.
But we still want them to have that place where they need to go. So, Miss Karina, anything else?
Oh, sorry. I was replying to a message on Facebook.
Okay. Well,
So let me...
She's working on technology.
So Charlie Hermosa says the Department of Veteran Affairs announced that it will also begin funding psychedelic-assisted therapy to treat veterans with PTSD and depression. I think that was an article maybe February 7th, 2024. Yeah. And then... and
we had that discussion earlier, right?
Yes.
So
and Scott and Dee are watching us as well on Facebook. Thank you.
They're D's Air Force, right?
Okay.
Air Guard.
Okay. So sorry. So I did want to ask a question, because I know we talked about this before we got on air, was youth supports or who can come see you. And I know you mentioned the THAAD mission. And so a lot of that is the Army Guard. So have you seen them? And then, what would you say to someone that is on that mission?
I'll let you speak.
Oh, I'm not too sure.
Okay, no worries. So your question is, have we seen Thad? Absolutely, we have. You said, who's on the mission?
So what would you say to someone that's on the mission that would like to come see you? How do they schedule it, and what can you do? What can you say to assure them that, hey, go get seen or come get seen, even if it's for the smallest thing?
Yeah, if there's one thing I'll say is that you're going to be treated like everybody else who walks into our clinic. So we'll pull you in, talk to you individually, see what's going on, and offer you resources. If you need specialty care, that's where we're located. So we'll schedule you for an appointment. You'll get an intake. We'll get to know you, approximately an hour and a half long appointment if needed. But if it's a lower level type care where you don't need specialty care, we'll get you in contact with that resource.
That's great
so
information.
We are at the Anderson Medical Clinics. So the med group is the only one in Anderson. So if you're assigned to THAD, that would be the place to go, right across from optometry. And as VNA said, mental health is a specialty. So if there are things that can be managed at stress management, we will refer you to appropriate resources. So I would say, come on. Come on out and let's find out.
But right now, we're not able to see veterans at your clinic right now.
Yes, Anderson Med Group does not see veterans. It is just for active duty.
And where do we go? You said Naval Hospital or Big Navy will see the veterans, you think, or no?
Some. That is on the space available.
Okay.
But we always recommend going to VA first for veterans, right? Because with veterans, it's different in terms of TRICARE,
right,
as well as service connection and things like that. So veterans have a little bit more options in terms of going to the VA or with contracted providers here on island.
Okay.
So I could list names, but I don't know. But there's some providers here that do see veterans
on the civilian side.
On the civilian side.
Yeah, we know a few of them. I don't know if they're in your network or you understand who they are. Most of our veterans, we started out 3 years ago sending a bunch of veterans over to Dr. Lighthizer, and she's an Air Force veteran.
She is retired Air
yeah,
Force.
she's got a good. She had a good job in the Air Force. Her job was to make sure that everybody that joined the Air Force could fit into their job. I said, How great is that to have somebody that would tell you whether or not you could fit into that job? And even as you're getting out, right, you know that, hey, I was able to work there because I was mentally healthy to get to that job versus, when you get out and you're starting to have trouble, they can't tell you that you weren't able to do the job. And if you're now having a difficulty as you gotten out of the service, now you can go back and say, hey, wait a minute. Dr. Lighthizer said I could work there, and now I'm having a hard time. So something must have gone, the other way or might have affected us along the way. So,
yeah, sure.
Anything else we want to talk about? Come on, this is a great time for us to
Okay, so the psychedelic thing that keeps coming up. Let's address that.
Let's address it.
Because this has been, what, 2 times this has come up so
no,
far?
3.
3 times? Oh, my goodness. So let's address that.
Okay,
let's do it after the break.
Oh, we're going to break now? Okay,
Yes.
break, yes. We're going to go on a break, and we're right back, and then we'll talk about those psychedelic drugs that everyone keeps talking about.
Yes.
We'll be right back, guys.
Awesome.
KFC's Lent menu is filled with so many seafood options, it's enough to keep you going for the entire Lenten season. They're all here. Popcorn shrimp, fish wraps, fish fillets, shrimp and crab Killigan wraps, and our famous KFC shrimp burger. And now you can mix and match chicken and fish in both 6 and 12-piece family meals with sides and biscuits. KFC's Lent menu is available for a limited time at all KFC restaurants and for delivery at kfcguam.com or WhatsApp 300-3278. KFC, it's finger-licking good for Lent.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Oh, and we're are back. We're having so much fun during the break. So I'm gonna read the comments before we go any further because we could talk a lot. I think we were almost late coming over because we were so busy talking earlier. So Steve says to access free VA mental health services right away, call or walk in to any VA medical center anytime, day or night. Find your nearest VA health facility. And then we have the Facebook name is Paris Jean Blas Mendiola. She says, great job, Sergeant Chelf and Captain Zaval.
Thanks, Paris!
And then Vicky Ann says, rock stars.
Yay, thank you.
And then Steve says, military provides transitional briefings prior to retirement or leaving the military. So let's get back to what we were talking about, addressing that issue that keeps coming up, psychedelic drugs.
So psychedelic drugs. Okay, so as a licensed clinical social worker and active duty, psychedelic drugs are not for active duty right now, right? They're not.
No.
Okay, and let's also remember psychedelic drugs are now no longer taboo, but it's very recent. I would say recent as in the last
2 years, maybe.
2 years,
Yes.
right? And it is more of, it's replacing, I don't know if you guys remember ECTs, right? Electroconvulsive therapy.
Yes,
that was used for significant depression
Yes.
and bipolar. Sorry, not bipolar. Bipolar, a manic depressive. So we found out that there's a lot of side effects, long-lasting side effects of ECTs, right? So ECT was used when I was in training in school, right? So psychedelic is more of the not as impactful, but it is still on an inpatient level, right? Yeah. Just within the last year, they're now doing maybe home-based, but that requires under
close supervision,
registered mental health nurse practitioner, right? So it is still invasive therapy, right? This is not something done on the outpatient, right? I am an outpatient provider. This is more on the inpatient level.
Okay. All right. Well, before we continue, we got a call. Let's make sure this is not the president. Hello, can you hear us? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, wondering what's your YouTube stuff to get to.
Okay. Say that one more time.
You guys are on YouTube?
What's our YouTube?
Oh, yes, YouTube. So HMI Guam right now, right? I think. Yes, HMI Guam. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Wow, you guys are really popular.
And then C.R. Wood says, great guests and hosts.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
You guys make us look good. We got to bring you on more often.
So, sorry,
So
you were
back to
saying
psychedelics.
psychedelic drugs?
So it is still at the inpatient level, right? Significantly. And we're still learning about it. So it's not something that's very widespread use, right?
And we're not doing that yet in active
because
duty, right?
No, because it uses
Yes, good.
MDA, LSD, and
She's like,
remember, active duty, it's a drug-free job, right?
Zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance.
Okay. But these things that are being studied are just like a lot of things that, like you talked about ECF, right?
ECT.
Or ECT. At the time, it was being practiced and used, and a lot of these things have to go through is it called clinical trials? And,
IRB,
And then we
yes.
got to make sure all these things work out, right? And sometimes we don't know the outcomes until after, right? But we use them as best we can. I think and when we talk about mental health, right, and I'm not the expert, you guys are, I think it comes down to two things that they find as being very effective, and it's the counseling and medication together, kind of through learning and understanding whether or not how they work with each other, right?
Yeah, it's a collaborative process.
Yeah. So that's the best outcomes that they've seen, right, is the counseling and medication. And sometimes it's one or the other, but I think most of the times if they put them together, of course, under folks like yourselves monitoring it and making sure that it's done properly, right? And these things don't take like, you won't see me today and tomorrow we'll have the whole thing set out and planned out, right?
No, that doesn't exist, unfortunately.
Okay. And what do they call the part where they taking the medication? Is it titration?
Yes, so when you're being evaluated for medication and your psychiatrist, so that's done with your psychiatrist or your PCM. PCMs are able to prescribe mental health medications such as Prozac, Cymbalta, Zoloft, right? Those are the common medications, and it's titrated, right? Now, if it becomes that after multiple trials of drugs and it's not working, then your PCM will refer you to a psychiatrist, right? Because again, mental health is a specialty, right? So if things aren't working with your PCM, then they'll refer you to psychiatry, and psychiatry will ask you, are you seeing a provider, mental health provider? And if you're not, they would recommend you see a mental health provider.
I see. Okay.
So I did have a question. I know we didn't talk about it earlier, but it's something that does come up. So you do take care of the military member. What about their families?
Do you want to speak to that? Oh, I can speak to that? You can speak to that. Okay, so again, for Anderson, we do just see active duties, right? And since Guam is a joint regional Marianas location, we do have something called family advocacy.
Okay.
So anything involving spouse or children, they are seen there, and that's at Navy, right?
Okay.
We do have FAPA right now a bit vacant, so we collaborate highly with Navy. So thank you. Shout out to Navy, our counterparts. Thank you. We can't do our job without you. Awesome. And we also have what we call DBFRC, so Developmental Behavioral Family Coordination, and that is remote. So within the PACAF, they come and evaluate children, anyone under the age of 18 in the PEDS clinic. So that is more of the primary care part, that anytime there are children having concerns with mental health problems or even behavioral concerns at school, then they are referred to that team that comes out quarterly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Guam is very limited. It's a small island, and it's very limited in resources for our active duty and our families. So shout out to families. We can't do our jobs without you, but it isn't easy right here on this island that has limited support. So that's why I would highly recommend that for families, you definitely should do Military One Source, right, reaching out. And for families, also telehealth, right? Get with TRICARE Online, ask for a referral for a telehealth provider, and we can use it because we're starting to even utilize, what is the app? Headspace.
Yes,
Thank you.
Headspace.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's about to be a really advocated resource on the remote platform, telehealth platform, right?
Oh, okay.
So I highly encourage people to not move away from telehealth. COVID showed us that we can still interact on the virtual level. We can still make impact on the virtual level.
Okay. Now, so we're talking about, being here and caring for our active duty, and a lot of times most of our active duty have to get transferred out of here at some point, right? So over at the VA, I think they call it attrition rate for doctors up there. I think it's 2 years. So every 2 years, they switch out, and it's really tough. So let me ask the question. You're here on an assignment as an active duty personnel, right? Yeah. When you're here, is there a way for us to try to keep you here if you so desire? And how does that work right now on active duty?
You can request an extension to your DROS. I think it's up to a year.
Yeah, so it depends for enlisted. Is enlisted up to a year? Is officer? I can tell you on the officer side, but for enlisted, because I know some people at Epcot here too, right? So
I'm
that's
not too familiar. It was my first overseas base.
Okay, so you can request to extend, right? Depending on whatever your AFSC is, right? But I know for an officer, you can request to extend, and because Guam is very hard to fill location, they will accept it. Like for me, I was here for 2 years, but I extended for another year based on other circumstances, and they were really quick to. They're like, "Okay, sure, we're not gonna.
We'll keep you.
You want to stay? Okay." And so for hard to fill location, and that, and there's multiple hard to fill locations, they're usually able to adhere to people's requests.
Oh, I think we got a phone call.
All right, let me see what we got here.
Hi, Auntie Donna.
Hello.
Donna?
Yeah, Auntie Donna's online. I saw her at on Facebook. Go ahead. You got the call? Oh, sorry.
You're referring me as Auntie Donna. It's like, no, I'm a he.
All right. And who's this, please?
Mr. Tyron, I'm Phil. I called last week.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Good. And you were talking about, there's sometimes you were talking about boot camp, traumatized.
Yeah.
Well, when I went in 81, I'm a non-war vet.
Okay.
But when I went in 81, I observed 2 people that died in boot camp training. One was heat stroke and the other one was drowning.
Okay.
And back then, we didn't have no yellow card or, it's not like nowadays they say, oh, for those who are traumatized, go seek psychological help and all that stuff.
Okay.
That's my question to the 2 ladies there. 'Cause
Yes.
You said they're mental health, but is it only for active duty? There's none for veterans?
You mean, are you asking in regards to resources for veterans?
Yeah.
Yes, so as we stated earlier, for veterans, we do highly recommend you utilize the VA. Navy will see some veterans based on availability and military one source. And if you are, depending on your service connection and what your status is, you can call TRICARE to, if you have that, because some people don't have TRICARE
No,
depending
I
on your
only did 4
retirement
years.
status. I'm sorry?
I only did 4 years. I didn't retire.
Okay. So, yeah, so then I would, military one source is still available, as well as, and if you're having thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else, I highly recommend the suicide prevention hotline. That is not discriminatory to service members. You can be a veteran, active duty, spouse.
The number is 988 for the hotline.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for calling. Okay.
Yeah, so just I know we're almost done with the show, but the ladies we have on are active duty, and they are from Anderson Air Force Base Clinic. Did I say that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Now, retirees are able to come see you guys as well?
Retirees, it depends on, like, we have some retirees that are GS.
Okay.
And depending on their TRICARE, they can get seen at Navy, but they do not get seen at Anderson Mental Health Clinic. No, sir.
Okay.
So that's
okay. Thank you. And just real quick, right? So for the 2 of you, right? If the folks out here, you understand, there's a shortage. We're so remote, and there's not a lot of folks to do the kind of work that you folks do. And we're eternally grateful for you guys being here to take care of our active duty and the folks in the THAAD and anybody else that you're able to help. And even just your information here and being here shows support to our veterans that, hey, we can get people to help us understand these things. So let me ask the question. What would Guam need to do to keep folks like you guys here longer?
longer.
Or maybe even for a lifetime.
Well, again,
what could we do? I mean, because we're having that not just with the active duty side where you're at, but we have that even in the veteran side.
Absolutely. I can only speak for the active duty. Us moving is beyond my pay grade and yours. So unless you got to heir to the president,
you talking about me calling Joey?
I don't know. We are rotated because we, as you stated, we are highly needed and on demand, right? Our career field is on demand, and retention also is a concern. So we have to rotate people.
Gotcha.
Like I said, for officers, they will extend a year. I can speak for that. So that's pretty much it. We don't get a control of how we rotate. But what I will say for Guam is I will say that the people need to be creative and utilize all the resources you have. So again, I know we're about to end. That's why I wanted to just reiterate. Okay, so active duty, Anderson, Navy. That's what you have. Veterans, VA, Military One Source, suicide prevention, Headspace, and BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online telehealth platform that provides services also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. It was a joy having you guys on. We'll be back on next week at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The first rescue charter flight from Haiti arrives in Miami. I'm Sue Guzman, Fox News. A Haiti rescue flight carrying 30 Americans lands in Miami.
American citizens are back home safe in the U.S. tonight after escaping chaos and gang violence in Haiti. They arrived in Miami just hours ago on the first U.S. rescue charter flight from the country. Officials say 47 passengers were on board. Several hundred more American citizens, though, who are still believed to be trapped in Haiti. Violent gangs have taken over about 80% of the country's capital city, closing government buildings, roads, and airports in the process.
Fox's Ashley Strohmeyer, the nonprofit